Among the Sleep is a first-person horror game where you play as David, a small child exploring a nightmarish world. Atmosphere. The game's sole selling point is horror from the perspective of a child, with you being so close to the floor the whole game, even things like mundane furniture feel imposing, and ordinary tasks like opening doors are more of a challenge when you're that size. And since David can't run standing up and feels unstable walking, the combination of controls and perspective make you feel weak and helpless. This only feels like it's ever prevalent at the start of the game though. After the bright and colourful intro sequence with the nighttime disappearance of David's mother, the house feels electrically charged and there's a great deal of tension as you try to find her. After entering the dream world, there's a few vaguely sinister looking environments and some creepy structures, but the atmosphere never really reaches the level of intensity that it did at the start. The sound design is really trying to squeeze more out of the environments, and the game does have some brief moments where the enemy encounters ramp up the tension, but these are very brief and the enemies are often easily avoided by crawling into areas they can't get to you in. In my opinion, the game peaks at the start and is a bit of a letdown from there on out, never quite reaching that level of tension again. That's no Harry Mason's. Scares. The enemy design too is a bit caught up in trying to be frightening from a child's perspective, with the antagonist looking like gnarled half-dream mutations or a giant coat with eyes in its chest. But again, as an adult playing the game, at least for me, I don't really find them frightening or intimidating, and most of them seem to be minding their own business anyway and not actively searching for you. It may be the reason the developers decided to make the screen shake anytime you look directly at them, which can make the player panic. It's unclear to me whether this was intentional or not, but something that caught me by surprise many times was the enemy sneaking up behind me. Even with headphones on, I couldn't hear their footsteps and didn't notice any audio cues that would indicate how close they were until I was suddenly captured, which startled me every single time. The only scripted event I remember was the one with the bottles in the corridor, and it's executed quite well. If you know it's coming, it can be completely avoided, but if you knock one of the bottles over, you've got a frantic dash to the exit before the coat monster catches you, which can be quite scary with David's slow speed. There was also a few sporadic jump scares that caught me off guard. With the game's length being an hour and a half, the jump scares didn't really feel overused, and none of the ones I witnessed fell flat. Overall, the game, whether intentionally or not, did a surprisingly decent job in the scares department, if only by surprise. That's one Harry Mason. Sound design. There's a lot of interesting choices when it comes to music in this game, with strange wails and sound effect loops fluttering over a lot of the soundtrack, making for a wide variety of dynamic pieces. There's dissonant lullabies, chimes, and music box warbles making up some of the more memorable tracks, with surprisingly dark ambient pieces fleshing out the rest of it. The soundtrack on its own never fails to be eerie and uses a lot of different things, from the returning motif of David's mother humming a lullaby to the delayed whispering that bounces around the puzzle piece level. You can hear distant children giggling in the playground, and occasionally there's the sound of bottles clanging together and other miscellaneous sound effects to fill in the space. On a more technical level, however, the directional audio is where the game lets itself down, with things sounding further away than they are, and as mentioned earlier for the enemies, having no footsteps or audio cues whatsoever. Sometimes sounds cut off for no reason, and sounds and music start and stop randomly. The voice acting, especially for the mother, is very sweet and endearing, which lulls the player in for events that happen later on, but sometimes voice lines are cut at the end of their lines, which was hard to miss.
I think I know a little someone who's ready for some cake. Chugga 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 choo choo. Here it comes, through the tunnel. Choo-choo.
But despite its flaws, the sound design carries a lot of the game's atmosphere and is generally very inventive. That's 2 Harry Masons.
Whoa, over there. It looks like another memory across that bridge.
Gore. There wasn't any blood or gore, and it's probably for the best that there wasn't. That's 3 Harry Masons.
Thank you. Something's not right. We need to find your mother.
Story. After receiving a teddy bear for his 2nd birthday, protagonist David discovers his teddy can talk, and they spend the day playing together. But sometime during the night, an invisible force takes the teddy bear away, and David is tasked to rescue him. After saving him, the game then takes a surreal turn as he and the teddy find their mother is missing and travel into a Dreamworld playhouse and input mementos into a machine to find her. The game includes a lot of symbolism that isn't always apparent until the ending, which has a nice twist executed well in a game this length. But there are a lot of things that go unexplained. It's never entirely clear when the game transitions from reality to Dreamworld and back again, leaving some parts of it feeling disjointed. Really though, the game doesn't try and tell a big story, it's very simple and straightforward, but can still be surprising when you piece it all together, making the final score 4 out of 5 Harry Masons. Among the Sleep is far from perfect, and for everything it does right, there's something else that doesn't work properly or conflicts with something else. But for an hour and a half, the game doesn't really disappoint. The Enhanced Edition even offers an additional ending, and there's DLC to explore as well. Again, I'd like to remind you this whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games, and if you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I didn't hear what caught me, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer, and I advise you don't either. There'll be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. And always go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.